All right, by now, guys, you know I love talking about old wrestling. What you might not know is it's not my real passion. My real passion is helping people save money. My real passion is getting families out of apartments and into houses. My real passion is getting people's finances aligned so they can retire on time. I hated going to Walmart and seeing the greeter being 80 years old. She should not be working. She should be home. Why is she still working? Because she still has a mortgage. I want to help avoid that for you. The other thing I want to help you with, let's make sure your kids don't get saddled with student loans. If you've got a student loan, why did you get one? Maybe because your parents still had a mortgage. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being sincere. There's only so much money to go around. What I want to help you do is figure out where you are right now and where you want to be long term. And I do it at SaveWithConrad.com. I've been doing mortgages for more than 20 years. And during all that time, we've helped tens of thousands of families change their life. I mean, routinely, we're helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. But more importantly, get them out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments. But if you don't think it can happen for you, let me just tell you this. We are not the bank. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. We're going to get you a game plan on how to improve your credit, how to save a little bit of cash, and how to get into that dream house. Maybe you're already in the house, but it would be nice if someday we could put a pool in the back, or one day we want to upgrade to hardwood floors, or remodel the kitchen, or get a badass master bathroom. I can help you do all of that with no money out of pocket right now at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. Check it out, SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. And hey, y'all, don't take my word for it. Check us out. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And as if that's not enough, go look at our reviews. Read them and weep, haters. ConradReviews.com. You'll see more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Our average review is 4.72 stars. Find out how much money you can save. Take control of your life in 2023 by taking control of your finances. We're going to show you how to keep more of your own money. If you've got credit card debt, what are you paying on that? 14%? 28%? You know you can do better. With the mortgage, though, you may not know this, the interest you pay is tax deductible. And we can even show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. So if you can get a lower monthly payment, pay your debt off faster, get a greater tax deduction at the end of the year, and right now, right after the holidays, skip your next 2 payments, buddy, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com, or hey man, shoot me an email directly, Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey guys, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Need to call a timeout real quick here. I wanted to tell your listeners what I've been telling my world listeners for a while now. It's about all the incredible things happening over on adfreeshows.com.
The debut of our new Monday Mailbag series is here with a man we love to hate, longtime WCW and WWE referee Nick Patrick.
But they didn't know who was going to be the heel out of it because of Earl at the Montreal screw job on there. I said, I guarantee, I promise you, I will be the heel, and that they are going to hate me far worse than him. Watch this. And then I went, how did that happen? And they said, you're right.
34 years ago, Jim Ross was on the call for the first match in the classic Flair Steamboat trilogy at Chi-Town Rumble. And now he's watching it back on a bonus watch-along edition of Grilling JR.
As far as a match is concerned, nobody's going to have a better match in 1989 than you just witnessed.
So many people, this is what got them hooked on wrestling for life, this match. And
Ad-free shows members sat shotgun alongside Impact star Frankie Kazarian and Eric Bischoff as the pair reflected on their time together in TNA and answered member questions live.
I did as good of a job as I could to substitute for Kurt Angle. There's no filling those shoes, but I did the best I could. I thought we had a great match, and I subsequently tore my tricep in that match. So it was a roller coaster of emotions of a day, man. But it was cool to be put in that position. Like, hey, well, we're throwing you into the main event. It's basically sink or swim, and I think I carried my weight, and it was a real fun experience, man. One I haven't really talked about a whole lot.
Hey, that's just a small taste of what Ad-Free Shows has waiting for you, including a brand new perk, getting to join in on the live recordings of the shows with 4 levels to choose from. See for yourself. why ad-free shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adfreeshows.com. That's right. Sign up today at adfreeshows.com.
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Arn. This is Paul Bromwell, and today I'm joined by the Hall of Famer, founder of the Four Horsemen, creator of the Spine Buster. And after today, even with Larry as his partner, we will call him champion again. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the enforcer. He's Double A. He's Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you this week?
I'm good, Paul. We just got back from Orlando in the dark tapings last Sunday. Was a good day. Brock and Pillman had a good outing, so very productive day, and things are starting to shape up a little bit.
That's good. And you said Brock was tagging with Brian again?
Yeah, and hopefully, that seems to be clicking well right now, and we'll go that route for a while, see what the world brings us.
Some pictures leaked online of kind of the new dark setup, and it looks really nice what they did down there with the arena and the video boards and everything. Looks first class what they got going on.
Yeah, sure does. Looks really, really good. Very professional, and funny thing happened, just to show you the nature of things. Now, in the past, that was if you were at the park, you could go in and watch the shows for nothing, right? Well, they charged them a small fee this past week with the new setup and all that, and we had a room full of strictly wrestling fans, and they had to pay, I think it was $20 or whatever it was, but it ensured you a whole different audience, and they were very, very captive. It wasn't just somebody trying to get out of the heat of Orlando. They were in there because they're wrestling fans, and man, what a great group they were. They were very, very generous to Brock and Pillman and myself, and they were a great crowd to perform in front of. So that's just a small little tweak, but amazing what a difference it made.
Man, that's great to hear, and it's great to hear for Brock. So impressed with him, and like I said, a few weeks ago, got to spend a little bit of time with him and you at Jimmy's, and he is just such a nice guy, and I'm so happy for him as he continues to evolve in the wrestling business, and wish him nothing but success, man. And I hope that if it's going to be he and Brian doing their thing together, that, man, they can really just come together and gel as a tag team, buddy.
Well, we appreciate all the support from you and everybody else. It's very rare that you get to make a living and have a life in this business. I've said it 1,000 times. It's the greatest way to make a living in the world. It's just a good lifestyle. It's tough. There's a lot of travel. It's like just as a small, thing. We were coming back from Orlando, and we got to the airport, and then started the delay stuff. We're already going to be there a couple hours before the flight, but delays. So we ended up being delayed 2.5, 3 hours and getting in at midnight. And that's a long day when your day starts at, 7 o'clock that morning to get up and go work out and get back and shower and get over to the arena and be over there all day and have a match. And then you're a few hours in the airport. It's a tough day, but hey, I wouldn't trade one day of it for anything else. It's awesome.
Well, Arn, speaking of being on the road, one of the things that we wanted to talk about and make sure that all the fans are aware of is the first week in March. It's the first week in March here, and that means that you, as listeners, have an opportunity on March the 11th, Arn, in Ohio at the Glory Days Bash. All-Star Wrestling's putting on an event there at the OUC Shoemaker Center. Fan Fest begins at 12, ends at 5, 2 hours prior to bell time, and alongside you and Brock, fans all also will have the chance to meet you guys. They're going to have a chance to meet Tommy Young, Ricky Morton, Bobby Fulton, both their sons, Kerry Morton and Jaron Fulton. But, man, I know you're looking forward to that event and hopefully meeting a lot of good fans out there.
Oh, I've heard nothing but good things. These guys have ran a couple of shows in Chillicothe, in the past, and they were huge successes. And I was supposed to be on the first one, and then the issues with COVID hit, and as we know, a lot of shows got canceled. And finally making my way back there, and can't wait to see all the fans.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in attending this event, here's the website. I want to give it to you. It's WCPBTW.com. Once again, WCPBTW.com. Check it out. They have all the event details. They have individual pricing for meet and greets. You can find Arn and Brock on there. And every time Arn goes to these things, Arn, you just have the best time meeting the fans. That's your highlight of the whole weekend.
You're not kidding. It's, because they all have a story. They all have, something cool they want to share with you. And, it's just, you could see, it would be like us, Paul, if we were going to football national championship. I got a feeling you'd be able to look in our eyes that whole day and go, man, how cool is this for those guys, seeing what fans they are. That's the way the wrestling fans are. And when you see them come up with their kids and their father and there's 3 generations there, man, that's as good as it gets.
Oh, man, it's such a highlight for we as fans to meet you guys. Listen, Arn, every time I still, you and I get to do this podcast on a weekly basis. But, buddy, when I see you in person, there's still nothing like it. Nothing like it, because listen, and I know it's said over and over again and sounds redundant at this point, but you are part of our childhood growing up, and somebody that we enjoyed to watch and listen to you as a performer and watched you in the ring. We love pro wrestling and what you did and as part of the Horsemen, and then we're going to talk about it now, what you did as a tag team wrestler, and you have mentioned it before, what it meant to meet some of your idols in football and things like that. There's not an experience like it on this planet. It's special. So I hope fans take this advantage to go out and meet these guys. And now I love to hear you always say how special it is to you on the reverse side of it to meet the fans. So take advantage of it. WCPBTW.com. And you'll get to see Arn and a bunch of other legends as well. Tommy Young, Ricky Morton. I mean, these are all the guys. Bobby Fulton of the Fantastics and their sons. So should be a good time had by all. Arn, let's get into it, because last week we paused our walk through your career and let our fans take control of the show, and that they did. We had a blast with the February edition of Ask Arn, and I know that you agree, Arn. We had a lot of great questions. We did not get to all of them, but as promised, don't worry, at the end of March, we're going to do another Ask Arn Anything. And so the best place is Twitter on the show account. Just use that hashtag Ask Arn, but we want to make sure that we get to all your questions. We're going to do this once a month throughout the entire year, and we're happy to ask Arn pretty much anything that you throw out there, and it's a fun way for you to do the what if questions. Arn, you love those what if questions. I know
We
that.
do.
So you can do that and just kind of find out some other things. We'll be happy to ask them on the show. So make sure you take advantage of that. But today we're going to return back to that monthly grind through Arn's schedule. We're looking at September 1991. We left off in August of 91 with you and Larry becoming finalists in a tournament for the vacant World Tag Team titles. And this month, we're not going to waste any time getting into it. Our man, the Enforcer, he's back where he belongs, and he's going to be on top here with the tag team as a tag team champion with Larry Zbyszko as his partner. And it all happens on September the 5th. WCW holds Clash of the Champions 16 at the Augusta Richmond County Civic Center. 2,800 fans attended the event, and it drew a 3.7 television rating. The main event of the evening was the finals of the World Tag Team Tournament. You have Rick Steiner Arn teaming with Bill Cashmere, and the reason for this is because Scott had torn his bicep. He had a bicep injury earlier in July of that year, so Bill becomes the man, and he tags with Rick. And we're going to get into some highlights here, and I have a couple questions for you about Bill. But apparently, you and Larry decided that you needed an advantage in the main event here on Clash. And Bill was doing a feat of strength here in the ring, and you and Larry would attack him. You injured him, and it, of course, gave you the advantage going into this main event match. And Arn, as always here on the Arn Show, we have the clip to go back and show you this. So we're going to take a look at what you and Larry did to Bill before the main event match. It's our first clip of the week. Again, this is Clash of the Champions, September 5th, 1991. Let's check it out together.
Kazmaier, the strongest man in the world, as he attempts to set a new world record here at the Clash of Champions. He's set.
Good grief.
It's bending behind the neck now. He's almost got it. Bill Kazmaier, the strongest man in the world, cheer him on. He's going to get it. Bill Kazmaier.
Oh, wait a minute.
The strongest man in the world.
Look out from behind.
That's a new
Oh, my gosh. That just rammed those 45-pound, that steel plate right into his ribs. Anderson and Zbyszko had to be a premeditated attack. Here comes Rick Steiner. Tony down the ramp, but it's too late.
Steiner is way too late. And they're going out the exit door to our right over here. Can you believe that? We talked about trying to get an early advantage. He can't even get up.
He just broke the world's record, but his ribs may be broken for his troubles. And we'll be back right after this.
Eric Bischoff saying his name correctly, Bill Kazmaier. But Arn, let's talk about this, because this is some old school storytelling here. Injuring your opponent before the big match, right? And not only do you guys get the advantage for the upcoming main event match, but the visual of using the weight plate reminds the fans that you and Larry are dangerous and you guys are willing to do whatever it takes to get those titles. You've been a part of a lot of angles, Arn, in your illustrious career. Do you believe something like this is good, effective storytelling here?
Oh, of course. I mean, you think about the symbolism. Let's just start at the beginning. Scott Steiner tore a bicep.
Yes. Yeah.
You seen the biceps on Scott Steiner? How do you tear one of those?
Boulders.
So something must have been pretty drastic to tear his bicep. Anyway, so the powers that be, they don't go out and just get him a great fill-in. They get the world's strongest man, and that's legit. Bill Kazmaier won many of those world's strongest man competitions. I mean, this guy he's a freak. He's at a different level in a different world. But that's, I say all the time, there's a lot of great athletes in this world that can't do what we do. And professional wrestling is a whole different animal. It's a combination of a lot of different things. So, he's going to come out, and for the people that don't know, a lot of people, if you took a survey and said, who's the reigning world's strongest man per the world's strongest man competition, there's probably 1% that can name that. I don't know who it is. Mm-mm. So it wasn't mainstream then. It's not mainstream now, but it has its following, and the people that know really know. And the fact is, all those world's strongest man athletes are legitimate monsters, beasts. And Kazmaier was the reigning champion at the time. So as far as having wrestling experience, that's another matter. So if he wants to bring weights into it, well, we thought it would be apropos to go ahead and introduce him to a 45 with Larry on one end of it and me on the other.
And the execution was flawless, but it looks like, obviously the booking here is how do we replicate the look of Scott, right? So you go out and you get a beast like this. It's not necessarily looking for the most technical wrestler. It's looking somebody that will complement Rick and has that same, I guess, look to a Scott Steiner, right? That's what they're going for here.
Well, Paul, let's face it, here's the thing. A guy that bench presses, let's just say 680 pounds or whatever he would have done at the time, 700 pounds, who knows. But when a guy is that strong and in every part of his body, he could literally reach out and just grab you by the wrist, if he chose to, and just snap your wrist in half. Forget about the ability to wrestle amateur, professional, or otherwise. A guy that has that kind of strength, he could get a hold
legitimacy.
Of your foot.
Yeah,
he's legitimate. I mean, this is a guy that, probably does shoulder presses with 250-pound dumbbells. I mean, if you work out and you're listening to this podcast, yeah, that's a real thing. 250-pound dumbbells, seated shoulder presses, whatever it was that he did is at such another level from us regular guys that just work out to try to stay in some shape and, protect ourselves, put a coat of armor over our bones. This guy is from another planet. And, he could reach out, grab you by the foot, and just twist your ankle and just snap it. So the danger involved with bringing a guy like that into a wrestling match, once again, you're talking about being behind the 8 ball. My God. But it brings me to the next step. I don't care how much muscle you have or how much you can bench or how strong your triceps are or how much you can deadlift. When you crack or break somebody's ribs and they can't get oxygen, they can't breathe, broken ribs will make a mere mortal out of anybody. And that was the reason we went for the ribs. That's the reason it did put us at an advantage that we didn't have. And there was a game plan. It wasn't just a random, why'd you hit him in the ribs? If you've ever broke a rib, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, Arn, listen, and it was effective because we're going to get right to it. This is the main event match. It is you and Larry taking on Rick and Bill. It's the finals of the World Tag Team Tournament. Let's take a look. Not only do we have the finish of the match, but we also have the post-match promo. 4 clips total this week. This is clip 2, so we're jumping right into it. Let's check it out, the big tag team title championship win.
Anderson and Zbyszko make the exchange. It's Anderson in there now. Anderson has held the World Tag Team Championship on many occasions.
Tag, come on, Arn.
Made the tag. He also leg dropped Steiner, and here comes the living legend from Pittsburgh, Larry Zbyszko with a blatant chokehold.
Yeah, Jim, sometimes with all the things that have gone on, the injury to Kazmaier early on tonight, it gets down to teamwork. And, of course, we got a 2-on-1 situation, and I'm sure Steiner's going to try to stay there the entire match.
Time permitting, we'd like to talk to the new World Tag Team Champions here tonight. Zbyszko is a double-tough son of a gun, as they say. Front face lock into a vertical suplex. Did not hook the leg. He did not get the 3 count. Ramming Steiner's head into the knee of Anderson. I'm sure the fans would love to have seen Scott Steiner here tonight, but he's in rehabilitation, and there's a counter from the suplex. Great suplex by the dog-faced gremlin. The outstretched hand of Anderson meets his opponents, and Zbyszko will come in.
Here would have been a moment if Kazmaier was 100% where he would have had a tag opportunity, but Rick Steiner would not do it. Staying his ground, they are really at a disadvantage.
Steiner trying to fight out of the corner. He's fighting with all he's got, with all his heart. He knows his big partner has been decimated at the hands of the enforcers. A kick, and a Steiner line! Oh yeah, it's taken to rafters at the Richmond County Civic Center. Steiner may beat them both by himself.
Well, he can do it. We talked about it. He's the man that can do it. What guts? This is going to be it. Zbyszko better do something for his partner.
Zbyszko nails Steiner in the lower back. And off the top came Anderson with a clothesline of his own. Rick would be well served to make the tag in normal circumstances. And,
oh, wait a minute.
He didn't tag Kazmaier. Kazmaier tagged him. Kazmaier in obvious, tremendous pain. Couldn't stand it any longer. He made the tag. Oh, Anderson.
Oh, right on the ribs.
Right in the ribs. He had him up in the military press. Zbyszko's gonna get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winners and new World Tag Team Champions, the Enforcers.
Anderson and Zbyszko have just won the World Tag Team Championship. Kazmaier came in with all he had, but the broken ribs prevented it. And fans will talk to the new champions right after this. The Enforcers, the new World Tag Team Champions.
Jim Ross, tonight we proved the theory of navigation. The biggest, strongest, most powerful sailboat in the world can't budge 1 inch if it don't have any wind. You're the strongest man in the world, Kazmaier, but if you can't breathe, you can't win. Tonight, the last thing we leave you with is we return these belts, not to rock stars, not to rappers, to 2 plain old journeyman wrestlers.
Hey, you know, while America was at home sitting on their brains, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko proved it don't matter how many muscles you have, it doesn't matter how many takedowns you learned at some jerkwater college. There's no more easy way you want these. You have to go through the Enforcers.
Fans, for Tony Tabani, I'm Jim Ross. So long for the...
Arn, you know what I love? You have not pre-watched any of these clips at all. You're just watching them with me as we go. But you're still making the same point even before we watch this clip as you did in your promo after the match about the ribs.
Well, that was the psychology of the match. Even if I don't remember the promo, that's what
awesome.
I would have said. That's what I would say today if put in that situation. It is, I was thinking the same thing, Paul, because I haven't had any. And we don't look at this during the week for a reason, because I want to give you my true reaction of how I'm feeling today about it and see if it matches up with how I felt back then.
32 years ago, and it's the same psychology. It's exactly the same, and it's the story, right? The story of the injury at the beginning of the show, carrying through, and that's how you win the tag team championships, and the storytelling of Jim Ross during the match, and it just all made sense. The win made sense, and for you two to become championships, and then you give it the crescendo with that promo at the very end, that closing loop, and I love it. You say plain old journeyman wrestlers, not rock stars, not superstars. It's a perfect example of what an interview is intended to do, reinforce what we saw in the ring. So there you go, man, and I enjoyed it. By the way, for those that aren't watching, Arn did successfully come off the second rope, and it worked. Okay, I think that's the first time we've watched something together and you came off the second rope. Did you catch it?
Yeah, but I haven't went off the top. Now, had I chose to stand up one more rung on that ladder, I am sure it would have went south.
Okay, so that's the key. Second rope, he's a little better. Once he gets to the third, all bets are off. All
disaster.
Right, well, listen, our first fan question this week comes from Arn superfan and friend of the show, Drew Landry. He wants to know if you think a tournament was the best concept for crowning new tag team champions. Did you like that idea with the injury to Scott?
Yeah, because it's such a major player. You just wouldn't put just anybody in that position. And I think when you put Bill Kazmaier in there, prior to getting injured, you would have looked at that as being Anderson probably 10-1 underdogs, Anderson and Zbyszko. We just chose to kind of tamper with the odds there a little bit and give ourselves a chance because those guys aren't human. They're at a different level. Rick Steiner, my God, I saw him do things in the gym, Paul, that to us, are world's strongest man, feats of strength. I saw him do 365 seated behind the neck presses one day in a gym, 5-6 reps. It's not a machine. This is free weights. Ask anybody at your gym, you ever seen that? Well, of course not. I mean, it's ridiculous. You look at the shoulders on Steiner, during that match. My God, he's at a different level. Now there's a different level of weightlifter, way beyond what Rick was, which was beyond my comprehension. Now you got the world's strongest man involved. So.
Yeah. Well, not only that, the Steiner line you took from Rick during that match, I mean, it about took your head off your shoulders.
Buddy, let me tell you something. Guys are that strong. They don't have to have a whole lot of whip. They need about a 6-inch range, and they're just so strong, Plus, I think Steiner had his bicep, tied back on. I think he had broke it at some point, torn it or something, and had a piece of I don't know what it would have been, like rubber or something inserted in his arm, which made that Steiner line even more effective. Yeah. Oh, like he needed help.
Well, yeah, just some of the shots, the brutality of the Steiners. You can never talk about it enough. We got another question here. It says, we just saw you and Larry show those tag team titles on the screen there. Nick Lenz wants to know what you thought about the look and style of those tag team championship belts.
You know, we did. I don't think it would have fit as well if it was something really gaudy. You know, we don't need belts that spin. We don't need them 3 feet wide, you know.
No spinner belt for you?
No, I mean, we don't need any of that stuff.
You don't need them diamond encrusted and all that stuff. You just...
Of the great tag teams before us that had held those belts, just a normal championship is just fine. Overkill, we never were that fancy or gaudy, or no feathers for me, no robes for me, just tights and boots and knee pads and a little tape on the wrist just for a mental edge, and I'm good to go.
Right. Your lunch pail. Take your lunch pail to work, kind of wrestler, and get it done. We have a couple other questions here about Bill Kazmaier, particularly. A wrestling historian on Instagram asked, who would Arn have chosen instead of Bill Kazmaier to replace Scott Steiner and partner with Rick? He added, Kazmaier was such a buzzkill for me as a Scott Steiner replacement. I mean, it was going to be almost impossible to replace a guy like Scott, but is there anybody else that you might have thought about replacing Scott with here?
Only other thing I could think of off the top of my head is if you'd have put maybe Ron Simmons in that spot, and they would have won.
Yeah,
they would have had to have won. That's such a rare thing to do, and because those guys have been in some wars with Doom and the Steiner brothers too, you know.
Yeah,
it would have been a good fitting replacement. You know, Ron has not had
similar styles, suplexes, power moves, the whole 9 year built. Yeah,
check on all that.
All of it. Scott Gold wants to know, was Kazmaier dangerous to work with in the ring? He didn't do a whole lot of work once he got in there because of the injury, but did you think he was dangerous at all?
No, we held him to a minimum. You know what we were going to put in a position. I wouldn't have said, hey, get a hold of a chair and hit me or nothing like that. You know, we did what we thought he could do safely, and Bill was a great guy, man. He was very cooperative with everything, gung-ho about everything. He was a wrestling fan, and, he made fans out of us. He was a really good guy because, let's just face it, if he would have really went off of the deep end and some tangent and didn't want to do something, he could have been very, very dangerous.
And let's be honest, Arn, and that's the biggest thing. You just said he's a very good guy. That makes the difference in all the world. If you're an asshole, it's trying to work with someone that's an asshole, that's one thing. But if you're just a good, nice guy that's in there, hey, I'm trying to do my best. Tell me what I need to do, and I'm teachable, coachable. You're going to take that every single day of the week and help them out, and that'll be a pleasure to work with, right?
Well, yeah, because, the underlying elephant in the room is this guy's making a nice chunk.
That's right.
He's probably making a lot more than everybody else in that match combined. So,
Good for him.
Which comes, no shit. We're happy for him, so be happy for us, and don't take any advantages or liberties. Just, hey, make it what it is. Be professional.
Gavin wants to know, from Kazmaier to Mark Henry to Braun Strowman, what's the biggest challenge in your mind, Arn, in helping world-class strongmen transition to pro wrestling?
There's a misconception that world's strongest men-esque types are just big, muscle-bound, plodding athletes. Not the case. With all three of those guys, Mark could get around that ring pretty decent for a guy his size, and he was the world's strongest man. Kazmaier, I imagine, could have got around the ring had he had to hit the ropes and stuff like that. I mean, I think he would have pulled it off fine. Braun Strowman, one of the first things that amazed me, I was out there working with him when he first brought him to WWE. We're in the afternoon, and we're just, having, running the ropes and hitting the turnbuckles and running turnbuckle to turnbuckle on the angle and stuff. And I couldn't believe how quick the guy was, how fast he could run, how fast he could cover that distance. He was 400 pounds at that time, somewhere around there. I mean, he was a monster. He came to us straight away from the world's strongest men competition. But the fact that these guys are athletes, great athletes, and can move and get up and down at their size is something to behold.
Without a doubt. Arn, it's time to thank our sponsor this week, Titan Nutrition. They're offering a full line of expertly formulated nutritional products to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. And my goodness, it's the start of 2023, and we need to get moving. We need to work off some of these holiday meals that unfortunately accumulate around our bellies. And it's time to do it. This is the time. Get ready for that summertime at the beach. And one product that can not only help you burn off those excess calories, but also give you the mental boost you need to move your body is Titan's powdered weight loss formula, Elite. This great tasting drink increases your metabolic rate so you burn more calories in the gym and at rest. It also contains healthy fiber, which is great for gut health and helps keep cravings away between meals. While it has plenty of caffeine to substitute your coffee, Elite also has a nootropic or smart drug complex to help you focus. It lifts your mood and productivity. Elite also comes in 6 amazing flavors that can be easily mixed and taken on the go, so it's super simple. Find it at titannutrition.net and save 10% plus get free shipping when you use our promo code ARN at checkout. That's titannutrition.net, TITAN nutrition.net, code ARN to save 10% right now and get free shipping. Arn, following the win at the Clash of the Champions, the Hardliners, Dick Murdoch and Dick Slater, all right, they challenged you and Larry for the World Tag Team titles on September 8th, 1991. That sounds like getting in the ring with 2 guys that are going to throw fists, huh?
Yep, and you know what? For me, it was special because Dick Slater was my idol when I was a kid.
That's right.
He was my inspiration. He was the one that made me want to be a wrestler. And just to be there and be in the ring with him, I had been in other matches against him and Buzz Sawyer. We had had a program, earlier during the Crockett days, 85. Worked the program with those guys. But so I'd been in the ring with Dick before and had some single matches with him. But now Dick Murdoch, who was, big star, prior to that out in Texas and for Bill Watts in different places. And those guys were a great team. Great psychologists, great performers, plus the fact there was always that other elephant in the room that Dick Slater may just decide if you don't like something just to hit you with a quick jab and knock you out till next week.
Well, we're going to find out if he does, buddy, because listen, we have the clip in our clip 3 of the week. It's the two, it's Dick Murdoch and Dick Slater versus the Enforcers. This was on the main event, September 8th, 1991. We have the closing moments of that match, and I thought it'd be a treat for you to watch this one. So here we go. Let's check it out.
My pleasure.
Here we go.
Here comes Murdoch in with a freebie. Right hand. And now Murdoch's going to go for the pin. He got 2. Come on in here, boy. Remember, this is a non-title event. Our first look at the new World Tag Team Champions, Anderson and Zbyszko, here on TBS in the main event. Headbutt. Right above the left eye of Dick Murdoch. Anderson trying to fight his way near his corner. Murdoch positioned himself between Anderson and Anderson's corner. Another right hand by Murdoch. Counter move, counter back, another headbutt. Murdoch holding on. He's preventing that tag. Both these men are veterans. And finally, Zbyszko makes the tag, and so does Slater. 2 fresh men in. Exchanging heavy right hands, and Murdoch, who did not leave the ring, now double teaming was Slater on Zbyszko. Anderson still hurting from those chair shots to the arm. Double fist. Knuckles in stereo. And now Slater up top. The elbow drop. And a right hand. Hard-hitting right hand. Like the defense of the Atlanta Falcons. They'll take your head off. Unfortunately, they'll do it in or out of bounds. Another right hand. Wait a minute. Murdoch's got something on his hand. He's got some nuts or something there. Referee Randy Anderson's calling for the bell. It's got to be a disqualification.
Of the match as a result of a disqualification, the Enforcer.
Well, I'm not real sure who brought him into the ring, but I know who used them. Murdoch put those nuts on his hand. He got caught with it. He's got disqualified. Anderson and Zbyszko will win this match by disqualification. Oh, there you see it. Anderson brought him in the ring. A little insurance there. A piece of the rock on his left hand. He nails Slater. But then Murdoch ends up with the nuts. The referee saw Murdoch with them. Murdoch and Slater disqualified. Anderson and Zbyszko, the champions, will win it. And we'll be back with more right after this timeout.
So was that Weasel Anderson all along. That's what we found out there at the end.
You know what? At that point, I was trying to get out of there with my life. I may have panicked. did the wrong thing, but I don't know. The life I was trying to save was mine.
There you go.
But did you notice here's the beautiful part, the professionalism. The camera work was right on it. The replay saw everything, and JR talked you right through every step of it.
Amazing.
So the fact if you didn't see it the first go around, they went back and replayed, and everybody sitting at home went, oh, damn, I get it. I see it now. Because the first run through, you didn't see where the nooks came through.
It was well done, and JR, again, I mean, we put him over a lot on the show, but this is why he is who he is. This is why we hold him in esteem and give him the credit that he deserves as being the voice of wrestling at this point. But you got to feel Dusty's all over this. I'm sure he booked this one, and I think it's just, hey, we're going to, you're going to start seeing here as we talk throughout the rest of the show, there's a lot of tag teams now that are coming your way, but what a better way than to give you guys some great credibility right off than saying we're going to stick you in there with Murdoch and have Slater come in and challenge you right off the bat.
Well, and the fact is, back in those days, you didn't have heel teams wrestling each other, because the audience, they would have just looked at the four of us and went, hey, who gives a shit? You guys kill everybody in the ring. We don't care. We don't like
Beat
any
each
of you
other
guys.
up. Yeah,
we don't have a favorite in this match, so destroy each other. It was hard to get a reaction sometimes, but when you had guys that could work like that, and basically the story of that was they did what we did. They cut off the opponent, being me, and they, kept him from tagging out, and that was the deal. And, just a struggle between Murdoch and I, just, with him laying down, holding onto my wrist, and me trying to get close enough to tag. That was the story of the match. It wasn't a bunch of flip-flop and fly and just a bunch of bumps that didn't matter because it didn't add to anything.
Speaking of fun stories or stories in general, any fun stories that you have of Murdoch and Slater while we're here? Or?
Well, anybody ever, made a road trip with Dick Murdoch, it was case of beer. He didn't care if you iced it down or not. It didn't have to even be cold, and you would always put Dickie either in the back bartending or in the passenger seat. You would have never asked him to drive because he couldn't perform. And his performing was storytelling. And, and he was...
Is that what he went by, Dickie? That's what you guys called him?
Yeah.
Okay.
We call him Dickie. A lot of his friends did. I would suggest a lot of the young guys probably should have called him Mr. Murdoch.
Mr. Murdoch. Right.
But he was as good as it goes all the way back to him and Dusty, He was as good as he wanted to be that night. He was as serious as he wanted to be that night. If he showed up in a goofy mood and it was a spot show, then he had a whole routine of shtick that was his entertainment match. And he had his money drawing match. So he was just an accomplished guy. Hell, at that point in time, Dick had probably been in the business when we were working with him, probably 20 years at that time. I think he probably started in the late 70s.
Yeah, he was wrestling
Paul?
in the 70s, yeah. Yeah.
So, he was a sure enough veteran.
You once you and Larry would capture the world titles, you guys worked against a lot of different teams. I mentioned it earlier. First, we saw you and Kazmaier and Steiner, I would say, wrestle against several house shows against you and Larry, trying to win those tag team titles. Then there was a few other tag team that you worked with. But while we're here, our friend with the book. That's right, Bryant Haremza, who we also got to see on last week's chat we did for ad-free shows. He asked the question, he said, you work mostly in tags against Bill Kazmaier. Bill was still pretty green at this time. Were you and Larry tasked with getting him ring ready? And how tough was it to get him ready? So would you remember any kind of talk about, hey, we're going to have him work the house show, Luke, too, with you guys. Just try to get him a little bit more polished. Was there any of that discussion?
I don't think he would have went for that. It would have he was looking for a one-off and a payoff, and that was it. Now, if you start breaking that payday into a week, 3-4 hours a day, 5 days a week, that payoff starts to look a lot less appetizing, I would think. Back in those days, there wasn't a whole lot of that getting together beforehand. Now, you might get there early the day of the show and have a short conversation about a couple, 3 things you wanted to do. We didn't walk through the thing with the weights. Larry and I were smart enough that when we slid in, he picked up the 45 and I gave him a part of it. You didn't turn the thing, this way. You kept it flat. You didn't turn it where there was an edge.
It was a different day, Arn. It sounds like it was like you were told what you needed to do, you figured it out, and you went out and did it. It wasn't all this planning and prepping and talking through stuff. That's
Well, it's common sense. Yeah, you're right, 100%. We were professionals. We were, it was our job to make sure it was done right. Everything was the way it should be, and there wasn't a discussion. Okay, make sure you guys turn the 45 this way. It was common sense, and if you couldn't figure that out, you didn't need to be in that spot.
Well, we move on because you and Larry also wrestled the Young Pistols. So that's Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong in a competitive television match that aired on WCW Pro September 21st, 1991. And I want to pause here, Arm, because I want to talk about these two guys for a minute. The Young Pistols are one of the low-key favorite tag teams of many hardcore wrestling fans. In your opinion, as a wrestler and later a producer, what was it about Steve and Tracy that made them so good together?
Number one, Stevie was an Armstrong, and there's not an Armstrong that was ever birthed, that ever came into this business that couldn't work. Every single one of them could work, and Stevie was the fireball of the family. He was the loose cannon, but legitimately, I mean, those guys on Thanksgiving over at their mom's house, before the day was over, 2 of the Armstrongs at a minimum were going to get in a fist fight over something. And Stevie was probably going to be right in the middle of it. He wasn't short on guts, that's for sure. Neither are any of the Armstrongs. They're all willing. But they're great workers. They're great performers. And it was, they just, you ain't going to pick on them or you ain't going to pick at them. And if they're in a bad mood, they'll just soon fist fight you in the mall. Or
on the front lawn.
On the front lawn, heaven forbid I found out about that.
Scott Armstrong told us that story on ad-free shows.
He was not happy.
Yeah.
So, and Tracy Smothers, who was another really professional, and everybody loved him because he was just a country boy and a good guy and a good person, and you wanted to be in the ring with him because he knew his job, and he was, he deserved a good match every time because that's what he brought with him. He would bring you a good match, and you owed him the same thing.
Or not only did you work with the Young Pistols, but you guys also wrestled Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin for the tag team championships, and you defeated the Freebirds. And then during one of our most recent shows, you mentioned that it was hard to replace Buddy Roberts and Terry Gordy in the Freebirds and capture that initial fire they had when they took World Class and Mid-South by storm in the early 80s. But Jimmy Garvin and Michael Hayes, they were credible, and they were a very good tag team. What memories can you share about working against this version of the Freebirds?
Well, yeah, they were. And, they were having fun. And it was at a time that, the pressure was not necessarily on them to draw the house. They were the original Freebirds are one of those rare teams. It's like the Horsemen. It's like the NWO. It's one of those rare occurrences where you have a group of guys that are family, that feel like they're family, that are friends, that are really close, and their talents just seem to blend. They're all different, but you blend all their talents and it comes out for a nice pot of soup, and that's the original Freebirds. You can't duplicate that. You'll never be able to go back and recreate that. But Jimmy Garvin, tremendous performer. Pat, his wife, Patty's a doll baby, not just a pleasant person to do business with. Michael, let's face it, Michael can talk, man. You can get it. He can talk people into a building. He had great rap, had that look, had that persona, had that personality. He brought all those things to, and if he just would punch you in the head with that 6-inch potato of his that he threw on a nightly basis, I don't know if it was just him ribbing me, and then moonwalked, and you could just, you had a match. That's all you really needed to build on. So,
and it's obvious now that he has such a mind for the business, still doing it today.
Yeah, I mean, he has always had something to offer. He has a very creative thinker, and, he's still around for a reason.
That's right. Well, let's talk about another tag team that you guys were facing a lot here, Arn, and that was Firebreaker Chip and Todd Champion, the Patriots. You defeated them in the semifinals of the tag team tournament, but you weren't done there with these guys. These two guys were the United States Tag Team Champions, and they wrestled you and Larry a lot in August and would wrestle you guys in a few matches here in September. But the Patriots also get the nod to be the team that challenges you and Larry for the tag team titles at Halloween Havoc, which we're going to talk about in detail next month. I can't wait for that show. But we've seen multiple matches with the Enforcers and the Patriots over the past several weeks, and now they're going to wrestle you and Larry for the World Tag Team titles. I want to ask you, Arn, here, why were Champion and Firebreaker Chip the guys picked to be kind of your headliner challenges right now around this time, especially Halloween Havoc too?
Because they had the look that the company was looking for, young, jacked up athletes, handsome guys. They were trying to build young talent. We got to remember at this point, WCW was a startup business. They hadn't been in business very long. Now, there were remnants of Jim Crockett within that company, but make no mistake, it was a brand new company under brand new guidelines, brand new rules and regulations and what they were looking for, to be the face of their company. And those guys had that look.
And Arn, is it fair to say at this point in your career you were good with whatever the booking decisions were? If it was going to be Champion and Firebreaker Chip that were going to be your main foes as the tag team champions here at this time, you and Larry are good with it. We'll do whatever you want, and if that's the team, so be it. Or where you have the thought, man, hey, what about the Pistols or another team or what have you? What was your outlook at this point?
Once I got enough experience to know who and what I wanted to be in the business and what I wanted my calling card to be, I wanted to be not the world champion, not the WCW champion, not necessarily, I'd love to have been the highest paid guy on the crew, but that wasn't going to happen, and I was fine with that because you accept it. Doesn't matter what other guys make. It just matters that you can live off of what you make and be happy with it. My goal was to any team or any match that they wanted to book me in, Doesn't matter how much experience the guy had, how much experience the team had, how good they were, how good their body was. When it was all said and done, I had given you an entertaining match. And with anybody on the card, write my name down beside anybody, I'll give you your money's worth. It may be not great, but it won't be a stinker. I'll make sure of that. And that was my goal, and that was who I wanted to be in the business. I wanted to be the guy that the other locker room said, I want to work with him.
There you go. And you were going to act and carry yourself like a professional the entire time, and what was expected of you, you were going to deliver, and deliver then some. You know what I mean? And I loved your mindset.
Well, I didn't get a World Cup for my work. I got paid a check, and I'm a professional, and that's the way I conduct myself.
There you go. Arn, in our final clip of the week, you and Larry defend your tag team titles and then issue a blistering promo. Let's see how it all went down. It's September 28th, the wrap-up 1991, and it's an episode of World Championship Wrestling, our fourth and final clip of the week.
Right into their own corner, and now Sawyer is in a true-to-life danger zone as he's at the mercy of two merciless individuals.
Zbyszko, deceptively strong. Tag made, another quick tag.
Here it comes!
Spine buster. Anderson with a spine buster slam, and Sawyer is helpless, and now they make another tag.
Masters of the game of human chess, and this, my friend, is checkmate.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winners of the match, the World Tag Team Champions, the Enforcers.
A submission victory by the Enforcers. 2 weeks in a row here on WCW, they have made their opponent submit. And whether it be Rick Steiner and any partner he chooses, the Patriots or the Fabulous Freebirds, whomever it may be that comes to challenge the World Tag Team Champions, must be ready for the match of their life. High impact, intelligent wrestling, the mark of the World Tag Team Champions, who are standing by at ringside with Paul E. Dangerously.
Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko are the World Tag Team Champions. That means you're the best tag team in the world. And now, gentlemen, breathing down your neck, the Patriots, Steiner and Kazmaier, and the Freebirds as well.
Hey, people, how does it feel to look at the last two real men on the face of planet Earth right here? You know, those names you mentioned don't mean a hill of beans because they're men of the 90s. They're robotized sheep. They think like wimps, Paul. You know, your computers have made it too easy to think, people. All your fast food chains made it too easy to eat. All you ladies with your plastic surgeons made it too easy to get a date. In fact, this whole world's so soft, the entire Garden of Eden is now the largest toxic waste dump site in the whole damn galaxy. Well, I tell you, the world's going to have to solve its problems all by itself the hard way. And anybody getting into our world and wants these belts are going to have to do it the hard way. They're going to have to go through the Enforcers.
Our entire lives have been spent preparing for a parallel that would meet at this time. WCW has changed a lot the last few years. Younger, stronger, better looking athletes with a lot of flamboyance. And they look at us and they say, you guys aren't flamboyant. You don't wear feathers. You don't bring musical instruments to the ring. And what I say to those critics, while each and every person tries to figure out a more grand way to enter the ring, we have figured out the way to enter, succeed, and then leave. You may not call it flamboyance. I call it being a winner. We're the world champions. Bottom line.
There's only one way to spell wrestling, ENFORCERS, and we'll be back, Mr. Zbyszko, after this.
Oh, hell yeah. There's only one way to spell wrestling, Arn. ENFORCERS. I love it. And clearly that was the message that you guys delivered there with that match and the promo. We are wrestlers, not showmen. You want these titles, you need to out-wrestle us for them. And might I add that you and Larry, buddy, complement each other so well, not only in the ring, but more so, I'd say, on the mic. Was that just all ad-lib off the cuff?
Every bit of it. Larry was, man, he was damn good.
Jeez.
And if you're an intelligent guy and you're following his promo, all the examples he give you are so, it's so out there, but when you hear it and you think about it for a second, you go, damn. Yeah, no shit.
Well thought out. Yeah.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
He put a lot of thought into his promos. A lot of my stuff would just roll off of the mood that I was in. I honestly believe Larry thought a lot about his, and he organized it in his head, and once he had it, it was there. And they were I forget just how, when you're out there, you're listening, but sometimes you're not hearing because you're thinking, okay, this is what I want to say. So you kind of hear it, but you don't. And this is getting to hear it under these circumstances. Yeah, I mean, he was good. He could talk his ass off. And he was a good performer when he wanted to.
You nailed it. And I think and then the complimentary right there, that was, if anybody's looking for a demo of the power of your tag team together, not only as wrestlers, but also as being able to deliver promos. But Arn, the thing that I love about your promo, that was with the reality of what was going on in the business right then. Everything you talked about. So you, I'm sure, literally had thought about it and felt that way and saw the people coming in with the feathers and the musical instruments and the pomp and circumstance. And that's not who you are, what you guys were trying to deliver, but you were able to articulate it in 30 seconds or left in such a powerful manner. And that's what we loved about you. And and it drove the point home.
Well, thank you. And, that's what made people ask me. They always say, what went into your promos and all this stuff. And, hey, what was going on in the real world, and comment on it.
That's right.
And do it in a way that you connect with the audience. And that's what a promo was.
Yeah, it was good, man. Good stuff. And as usual, we're going to go ahead and close out the show with a few fan questions. Brad Stanton, he wants to know, in 1991, what young talent did you see the most potential in? So you and I have been watching a lot of the talent here as we go through 91. We've watched Pillman, and we've seen an up-and-coming Ron Simmons. We've watched Dustin Rhodes. We've watched several of these guys. Was there someone that stuck out to you thinking, man, that they have all the potential in the world?
Well, certainly Pillman, and certainly Dustin, because you could see Dustin was a performer. He wasn't just going to, coast on his name. That's for sure. Ron Simmons, you had to appreciate just who and what he was. The Steiners, for me, I enjoyed working with the Steiners because even though it was a very physical match, Scotty was at a point in his career that he could do anything damn near Pillman could do, as far as the high-flying stuff, the Frankensteiners, he could do the double underhook suplexes and make it look flawless and effortless. And there were so many young guys coming along at that point. That's just a few that I thought, damn, the sky's the limit for these guys.
No, absolutely. We move on. Joe Giachetti wrote in and he said, did Arn ever discuss with Larry about his stalling tactics and how they might come into play in the ring? He was known for stalling, man, walking outside that ring, just getting the fans riled up. Did you ever talk to him about that and how he...
Yeah, I'm in the ring working my ass off, and this was on one of those given nights that either when I'm trying to tag, he's walking down the apron, barking at the audience, or he's on the floor. Whether he ate late, just felt like messing with me, was tired, whatever the reason, on the nights that Larry didn't choose to be great and wanted to be mediocre and stall Larry stall, and they would be chanting that, and he would be hollering at me from the apron, "Oh, Arn, do you hear them? They're chanting, Larry sucks, Larry sucks." I went, "Larry, they mean it. Are you going to get in here?" I'm getting heat. I'm getting heat. I said, yeah, it's all with me. Please do something.
Oh, so good. Get in the ring or it's going to be your spine on the pine. Oh. Brian Haremza, he said the September 6th show in Phoenix was canceled due to the fact that only 450 people came and the ring did not show up. Remember, we've talked about this before. It happened again. He literally did send me, by the way, an excerpt of this. This is true. How does the ring not show up again? And also, with only 450 fans, was WCW just not a draw out west? So this was in Phoenix. What's going on here, bud?
Either I've chose to block that out. I'm not kidding you.
I bet.
Either I chose to block that out or there's some reason I don't recall that, because being on a major company at that time, even the small companies, like, Continental, they never had a show canceled. They never had a ring not show up.
Yeah, with the stated reason the ring didn't show up. What in the world? Where are the ring guys at?
I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, everything was based out of Atlanta. If they were, let's just say that instead of leasing or renting local rings and stuff like that and having their equipment local, they chose to leave Atlanta and head out to Phoenix with all their stuff, which
Maybe they saw
it couldn't be cost effective. Maybe they saw who?
Maybe they saw ticket sales and were like, hey, just skip Phoenix, keep going to the next spot. We've only sold 450.
Okay, we're in Dallas. We've only got 450. Let's just turn around and go back to Atlanta.
Something. I mean, I don't know how the ring doesn't show up as the stated reason.
The reason that I can't probably remember this or something, but it's because, and I've said this before, the thing that justified everything that was going on in my career, good or bad, was based around every 2 weeks.
The greenbacks would drop into that checking account.
The fact that they canceled Phoenix didn't mean one diddly shit to me, because my check still showed up.
That's right.
And at that point, I was getting a little older in the business and having to think about those things. Now,
Arn would like to apologize to any of you 450 that got, bought tickets and that show was canceled. If you're out there listening to our voices now, we are sorry on behalf of WCW. We have no idea what happened.
And I assure you this, and you know this if you really do know me and you've really followed my career, if we would have got there and there'd have been 450 people sitting out there, I'd have gave them everything I had.
That's you, man. I know.
I'd have busted my ass just like there was 20,000 people there.
There you go. Well, Arn, we're going to close out this week's coverage with our friend Yambag Jones, and he wants to know, Clash of the Champions, the opening match on the card saw everyone's favorite monster, everyone, including you. Elegante, he wins. An over-the-top battle royal. I'm sure he was booked to win purely because he couldn't take the bump to the floor. But hypothetically, if you were asked to teach old Georgie how to flip his big ass over the top rope, how would you have done it?
I would have said, okay, since they have put me in this position, they don't care if I live or die, so I'm going to feed them back that same thought. George, lean against the top rope and wrap your arms around it, and then I would turn around and pull out of a bag a double-barrel shotgun and stick it in his mouth and pull both triggers. He would either go out over the top, through the ropes, or just explode. Any of them, who gives a shit?
And that, my friends, is the viral clip of the week here on Arn. Holy shit, that was good. I'm crying over here. And he's got the 4 fingers up. I do got to do a few announcements before we get out of here, but I love it. That was awesome.
Honest as I can be, buddy.
I love it. That's so good. Well, listen, we're closing down our coverage for September. Join us next week. I talked about it already. We're going to have a huge show and focus on Halloween Havoc 1991. Arn and Larry wrestle the Patriots. The Halloween Phantom is revealed. Ooh, who could that be? Ron Simmons takes on Lex Luger in a 2 out of 3 falls match. And yes, Arn, this is the pay-per-view with the notorious Chamber of Horrors match. And yes, we're going to watch a clip from it as you shake your head. Arn, also this past week, before we get out of here, Dirk Manning released some more teasers from your graphic novel. We're seeing some artwork giving us all a sample of what we've been waiting for. Arn Anderson, My Life as Wrestling's Enforcer, is expected to be completed and released in May. And we're here in March, so it's just around the corner. 60 days away at this point, and I can't wait for it, Double A.
Dirk, thank you and all your crew. Let's button her up. Now I'm starting to get excited. I want to see it. It's going to have some really stuff in there that you didn't think you would ever hear. And I'm not going to give anything away. Plus, it's going to be the great artwork, as you can see, by the people working on the book, Everything has evolved since when I was a kid and I was getting an occasional comic book bought, They were 25 cents back then. And it was, Archie and Sad Sack and I'm talking about,
Sad Sack sounds like old Georgie.
It's ridiculous. And, the Superman comics, the Batman comics and all that stuff.
Who, by the way, Superman was played by Christopher Reeve, not Christopher Reeves. On the last show, I kept saying Reeves with an S. And one of my buddies on Twitter, who's a massive Superman fan, tweeted me and said, Paulie, love the show, love you and Arn, but it's Reeve with no S at the end. So I just want to go ahead and fix that here.
Who said that?
It was a gentleman, and I'm going to find him now as we go through this before I wrap up the show. But he's one of our great listeners, great guy, loves the show, and he wanted just to make sure that I knew that it wasn't Reeves with an S on the end.
He's a detail guy.
He's a detail guy, and I do appreciate that.
I respect that, yeah.
That's right.
Thanks for the catch.
That's right.
How dare you, Paulie?
I'm a son. I'm a son of a bitch. It was George Reeves was the original Superman. Remember George Reeves played that?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm still rolling down the old Twitter notifications, but as I try to find it here. So listen, as we, I want to talk about a few other things. You can check us out, arnlinks.com, and that's where you're going to find out all those key links, whether you want to advertise with us. You can advertise with Arn. That's right. Make sure you get all your advertisements right here on the show. We'll have a lot of fun with them. You can find our merchandise store, buddy. The jackets, the hats, all the Four Horsemen gear. We have to talk about that. That's the place to go. Arnlinks.com to find all those links. So check it out. Our social accounts. Again, YouTube's doing really well. You can like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. But Arn, I know people everywhere you go are talking to you about that Four Horsemen merchandise.
Yeah. And I'd love to tell you what we've talked about this, Paul. I want to have the people that have bought the hats, and the hats are out there now. I'm starting to bring some to the Comic-Cons and stuff, and people are jumping on them just like the jackets. And I'd like to get some comments. Let me know how you feel about it, because I'm sky high on the jackets and the hats. The hats really look good. The white and black ones are awesome, and the jackets are perfect. So let us know how you feel about it, guys. The people might be on the cusp of buying one or don't really know. Those that have them and those are happy with them, give us a shout out. Let those people know they're making a good purchase.
There you go. And Arn, I found him. John Hayes was the man who let me know about Superman. So John, shout out of the week. It's going to you. Thank you, Christopher Reeve. I will never forget that now. Never, as long as I'll live.
Paulie, don't make the same mistake twice.
That's right.
Thank you for the details.
There you go. Guys, check us out over at Ad Free Shows. Arn last week did an hour and a half Zoom with our ad-free show members. We had a blast. We had a good time. Many of you that asked questions on the show were a part of it, and that's where it's all at, man. You can find a lot of bonus content over there, whether it's David Crockett taking folks day by day through the pivotal months of booking the territory with Jim Crockett's original handwritten notes, to interviews with Gary Juster on the Insiders. Lots of great content over at adfreeshows.com. But man, this has been a great show this week, Arn. Are you ready to do it again for next week?
Love to. Just saying, guys, watch AEW. Going to be some outstanding stuff occurring in the future. Brock and I hope to be heading that way. Things are shaping up really well with Brian and Brock, and it's going to be good things to come, we hope. So stick with us, follow us, support us, follow the podcast, and we're very much appreciative you're part of our family.
There you go. Well said. Well, on behalf of the enforcer, Arn Anderson, this is Paul Bromwell, and we'll see you right here next week on Arn